Imagine you are walking through a city that seems too alive to notice what is about to happen. The sun is not yet fully up, but the light is already hitting the pale stones of Jerusalem with an almost blinding intensity. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, limestone blocks worn down by decades of footsteps, and each step kicks up a fine layer of dust that sticks to your sweaty skin. The air is dry, filled with the smell of animals, baking bread, and wood smoke. Archaeological evidence shows that these streets were narrow, often less than 3 meters wide, lined with limestone buildings stacked with simple mortar. You feel it now, the cramped space, your shoulders almost touching the walls as people pass you in opposite directions. And there are many people, more than usual, because this is no ordinary day. Jerusalem is full. Scholars estimate that during Easter, the city's population could multiply up to 5 times. Pilgrims from Galilee, from Judea, from even more distant regions of the Roman Empire, all packed in and around these walls. You can't walk in a straight line. It is pushed, deflected, pulled by the human flow. But something is different. There is a sound that shouldn't be there. It's not just the typical buzz. It's heavier, denser, as if the city was waiting. You hear snippets of conversation as you pass by. They're taking him today. They say Pilate has already decided. It's better not to get involved. Nobody talks too loud. The voices are low, fast, as if the air itself is listening. And this is not paranoia, because when you turn a corner, you see it. Soldiers, archaeologists discovered inscriptions and evidence of intensified Roman military presence during Jewish festivals, especially to prevent revolts. And now you are faced with it. Men in segmented armor, the metal reflecting the morning light, helmets with crests, spears firmly in their hands, eyes attentive. They are not relaxed. They are positioned, observing, controlling. One of them looks directly at you. It's not a long look, but it's enough. You understand immediately. Here, you have no power. Here, any wrong move can be costly. But that doesn't stop the city's movement, because the city continues. A woman hurries past carrying a jug of water resting on her shoulder. Evidence suggests that cistern systems were the main source of water, and fetching water was a daily task, regardless of what was happening around. For her, the day needs to go on. A man discusses the price of grain with the seller. A boy runs between the adult's legs. An animal neighs when pulled hard. And yet, the tension doesn't go away. She grows, like a rope being pulled slowly. You start to notice something else. People are not just walking, they are moving in one direction. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but step by step, body by body, the flow aligns, as if an invisible force was pulling everyone towards the same point. And then you listen again, clearer now, closer, a name being whispered among the crowd, and along with it, a strange kind of expectation. It's not just fear, it's not just curiosity, it's something more difficult to explain, like when you feel like you're about to witness something that can't be undone. But that's not all, because what you haven't realized yet, not fully, is that this isn't just a day of execution. It's a day that will divide this city forever, and somehow you are already inside it. You keep walking, but now you start to realize where you really are. It's not just any city, it's Jerusalem, and not on an ordinary day. It's Easter time. The air you breathe carries more than dust and smoke. It carries religious expectation collective memory, and a political tension that could explode at any moment. Because for the people around him, this is not just a festival, it is the memory of liberation. Liberation from an empire. And now they live under another. Archaeological evidence shows that first-century Jerusalem was a densely built city with limestone houses clustered in layers around the temple, narrow streets, steep staircases, improvised drainage channels. Nothing planned for crowds this size, but still, they came. Scholars estimate that tens of thousands of pilgrims crowded the city during Easter, transforming every open space into a circulation area, every roof into a resting place, every corner into an observation point. You feel it in your body, the human heat, the more intense smell, the difficulty of breathing among so many. And that raises a question: how to control a city like this? The answer is all around you. Pomegranate. You see more soldiers now, not just in small groups, but positioned at strategic points, entrances, staircases, open areas. Evidence suggests that the Antonia fortress built next to the temple functioned as a Roman military center for precisely this type of moment, when a people's faith could easily turn into revolt. And during Easter, that was a real risk, because every prayer said inside the temple carried a dangerous reminder. God freed these people once, and I could do it again. But here's what changes everything. Rome knew this, and Pilate too. The Roman governor would not be here by chance. Historians point out that he normally resided in Caesarea Maritima, but moved to Jerusalem during major Jewish festivals, not to celebrate, to control, to prevent any spark. And you feel this presence not just in the soldiers, but in people's behavior. Nobody relaxes completely. The glances are quick. Conversations are measured. There is always an invisible awareness in the air. Anything can get out of control. But at the same time, the city doesn't stop. Look around you. A group of pilgrims sing psalms as they climb towards the temple. Evidence suggests that these songs, the so-called pilgrimage psalms, were sung in groups during the ascent. Voices echo between the stone walls, creating an almost spiritual atmosphere. And yet, there are soldiers watching every step. Further ahead, vendors organize animals for sacrifice, lambs, doves. The smell is strong, organic, real. Nothing here is symbolic. Everything is physical, tangible. And that raises another question. How can something so sacred coexist with so much tension? Because Jerusalem, at this moment, is exactly that. A place where faith and fear share the same space, where prayer and oppression go hand in hand, where the sacred is surrounded. And perhaps most disturbing of all, it's just that no one knows exactly what's about to happen. But everyone feels something is wrong. You feel it too, in the way people look at each other, in the sudden silence between one conversation and another, in the way the city's movement seems directed, as if behind all this routine there was a single point of convergence, something or someone that is about to become the center of everything. And this raises a question. How can an entire city be so full and at the same time so on the verge of collapse? Because what's about to happen isn't just political. It's not just religious. It's something that will cross these streets, these walls, these lives, and change the meaning of it all forever. And you haven't seen anything yet. Now the city is no longer just a setting. She gains a face. You realize this the moment you start to notice the expressions. It's not just bodies moving through cramped stone streets. They are wide eyes, tense jaws, brows furrowed, People trying to understand what they heard, what they saw, what they said was going to happen. Jerusalem is full, but it is not united. It's divided inside. On one side, the curious. They go with the flow like they don't want to miss anything. They get closer, whisper, stretch their necks, climb small stone gaps to see better. You recognize this human impulse immediately. When something extraordinary happens, people reach out, even when they are afraid, especially when they are afraid. And here, on that day, fear and fascination are walking together. Archaeological evidence shows that the urban fabric of Jerusalem in the Second Temple period created natural points of human compression. Narrow passages, staircases, courtyard entrances, and pathways that funneled near public areas. This means that rumors didn't just travel fast, they accumulated, and you feel it now. The news does not arrive cleanly. They arrive in pieces. He spoke against the temple. No, he cured people. They say he was called king. They say he's innocent. No one seems to have the whole story. And maybe that's the point. Because on days like this, the city doesn't react to the complete truth. He reacts to what he have heard. But look closer. Not everyone is curious. Some are angry. You see it in the rigidity of their faces, in the way certain words are spat out with force, in the strange pleasure of those who want to see the end of someone who has become too uncomfortable. There are people who want justice. There are people who want silence. There are people who just want to see the problem disappear. Evidence suggests that religious and political tensions in Jerusalem were deep, especially during festivals, when priestly leadership, popular sensibilities, and Roman vigilance intersected in the same space. And that makes everything more unstable, because in the crowd there are also those who are scared. Ordinary people, men who avoid talking, women pulling children closer, pilgrims who arrive to worship and now realize they have entered an emotionally feverish city. You see a mother touch her son's shoulder and make him flinch. See a low man our eyes when soldiers pass by. He sees another decide to follow the crowd even though he doesn't want to be there. But that's not all. The most disturbing thing is noticing the indifferent ones. Yes, they are there too. A salesman continues discussing flour measurements. A craftsman drags working material. A man tries to sell dried dates as if the day still obeys the normal rules of life. Archaeologists discovered stone containers, food preparation areas, and domestic structures that show how much routine in Jerusalem depended on repeated, practical, unavoidable tasks. And these tasks don't go away just because something huge is happening. Then you understand something uncomfortable. The city is not reacting as one soul. She is reacting as every city reacts to shock. Each person brings to the street what they already carry inside: curiosity, fear, resentment, devotion, convenience, hurry, tiredness. And at the center of this human maelstrom, someone is being led to their death. What most people miss is this: even before the cross appears on the horizon, Jerusalem has already revealed who it is. And when a city reveals its heart, what comes after is never just spectacle. It is a judgment on what was already hidden. And then Rome stops being an idea. It becomes physical. You hear it in the sound before you even see it all clearly. The taut leather, the touching metal, the hard rhythm of military sandals against stone. It's not the chaotic sound of a crowd. It's colder than that. More trained, more calculated. The whole city may be buzzing, but these men are not. They move forward with the calm of those who know that fear has already done half the work. You feel the effect immediately. The surrounding voices subside. Bodies adjust. People make space almost without realizing it, as if they learned long ago that the best way to survive power is to not stand in its way. Evidence suggests that Roman executions were deliberately public, designed not just to punish, but to communicate dominance. It wasn't enough to kill. It was necessary to show who was in charge. And Jerusalem gets the message. You see hardened faces, but you also see something more unsettling. Staring eyes. People who can't dodge. People who hate what they're seeing but keep looking. Because there is something terrible about the logic of the show. It hurts, repulses, and arrests. The execution does not happen in secret. It is pushed into the public space, into the field of vision, into the collective memory. Archaeological evidence shows that the Roman presence in the city became more visible precisely during festive periods, when the risk of unrest increased. That means more patrols, more movement control, more calculated displays of force. You feel that weight now in the way every corner feels watched, and that changes the air. It's not just tension, it's organized oppression. A soldier holds the spear without haste. Another scans the crowd as if measuring potential dangers. There's no need to shout all the time when the armor already speaks for itself. The shine of the metal, the discipline of the movements, the absence of hesitation. All of this announces the same thing. This city does not completely belong to those who love it, but to those who occupy it. But here's what changes everything. In the midst of this power machine, you realize that not everyone looks with the same emotion. Some recoil in shock. Some observe harshly. Some seem numb, as if they have seen too much violence to fully react. And some watch as if watching an inevitable outcome. This is the most disturbing atmosphere of that day. Fear and spectacle mixed in the same space. Rome's cruelty is not just in what it does, but in what it produces within people. She teaches the crowd to tremble. She teaches the crowd how to watch. And after a while, it almost teaches the crowd to keep breathing as if it were normal. What most people miss is this. At that moment, Jerusalem is not just seeing a man being handed over to death. You are seeing the empire remember in front of everyone that it can touch any body, silence any voice, and transform suffering into a public warning. And when an entire city gets this message at the same time, something inside it starts to give way. And here is the revelation that almost no one expects when they imagine this day. The most disturbing thing about Jerusalem is not just the fact that a man is being led to execution. It's just that the city doesn't stop. As tension rises, as fear spreads in short waves, as some rush to see, others continue doing what they did yesterday and what they will need to do tomorrow. You realize this when you look away from the center of the commotion for just a few seconds, and suddenly everything becomes even more difficult to bear. A woman adjusts the cloth over her head and follows with a jug of water. Archaeological evidence shows that domestic cisterns and public reservoirs were essential to life in Jerusalem, which made transporting water an unavoidable daily physical task. She can't just stop because the city has gone into upheaval. The house still needs water. Further ahead, a man organizes baskets with dried figs and grains. Another weighs goods with quick, trained movements, as if trying to maintain a routine was his only way of resisting the chaos. Evidence suggests that commerce in urban areas of the Second Temple period depended on continuous small transactions, especially on days of heavy pilgrimage. In other words, even on the darkest day, someone still needed to sell, buy, negotiate, survive. And it cuts you inside because the contrast is brutal. On the one hand, an extreme event. On the other, normal life insisting on continuing. Children still watch from afar, trying to understand why the adults are so tense. An animal is pulled up the street. Someone complains about the price of something. Someone looks for relatives in the crowd. Someone decides not to approach. Someone looks, shrugs, and follows. But that's not all. This contrast does not lessen the weight of what is happening. It increases. Because now you understand that the crucifixion does not stand before a city frozen in reverence. It takes place in front of a city too busy, too scared, too fragmented to react as it should. And maybe that's exactly what makes the day so human and so painful. Archaeologists discovered compact houses, food preparation areas, ritual baths, and busy streets that reveal a simple truth. Jerusalem was a city of concrete routines. Bread needed to be baked. Water needed to be carried. Families needed to eat. Everyday life did not disappear in the face of horror. She ran beside him. What most people miss is this. The shock of that day is not just at the cross. It lies in the fact that the world kept spinning around her. And when you realize this, the scene changes completely, because suddenly Jerusalem doesn't seem far away. She looks familiar. How many times does ordinary life continue around what should stop everything within us? And this is where something starts to change, not just around you, but within you. The city is still moving, but the pace is no longer the same. The sound of conversations diminishes at certain points, as if waves of silence are spreading through the streets. You notice this when you pass by a group that seconds before spoke with intensity, and now just watches. Something is heavy in the air. It's not just fear, it's something else, deeper, harder to name. You feel it in your body first, a strange unease, as if something is not just happening out there, but is reaching out to you, as if that day was demanding a response, even from those who didn't want to get involved. And then you look around more carefully. The face has changed. The curiosity still exists, but now it is mixed with discomfort. Some people avoid looking directly. Others look for too long, as if trying to understand something they can't explain. There are those who are visibly shaken, and there are those who seem to be struggling not to show it. Archaeological evidence shows that Jerusalem had public spaces where crowds easily gathered, open areas near the walls, elevated paths, and routes out of the city used for public executions. And these spaces were not just physical. They became psychological, places where collective emotions formed and spread. And you're in it now, inside a city that is beginning to feel the weight of what is happening. But here's what most people don't realize. The impact of that day did not fall on Jerusalem all at once. He was infiltrating, like a slowly growing shadow. You see it in the way some people start to pull away, not running, but slowly retreating, as if they wanted to distance themselves without attracting attention. Others remain, but with a more rigid body, arms crossed, gaze fixed. And there are also those who begin to question, low, almost silent. Is that right? Does he really deserve this? And if? These questions are not shouted. They are whispered, but they are dangerous, because questions like that change things. What most people miss is this: the most intense moment of that day is not just external. He is internal. That's when the city starts to realize that it's not just watching something happen. She is participating, even if in silence, even if just looking, even if just not stopping it. And that weighs more than the noise, more than the Roman presence, more than the crowd. You feel it when a man next to you looks away and takes a deep breath, as if trying to relieve something he can't get rid of inside. Or when a woman clasps her hands tightly, staring straight ahead, as if she is fighting something invisible. Evidence suggests that public execution events in Roman world were not just legal punishments, but social experiences that deeply mark the collective memory. And that means that no one who was there would come out the same, not even you. And this is where it shifts, because now it's no longer about what's going to happen. It's about what it's doing to each person who witnesses it. With every look, with every silence, with each choice to stay there or leave. And without fully realizing it, you begin to understand something unsettling. The day is not over yet, but Jerusalem is no longer the same. And then day begins to descend upon Jerusalem, not all at once, not with a grand closure, but little by little, as if the city itself was losing strength. The light changes first. The harsh afternoon glow gives way to duller tones on the limestone, and the streets that hours before seemed to pulse with tension now begin to empty in irregular waves. You notice groups breaking up without ceremony. People who used to squeeze in to see are now just people trying to get home. But no one comes back the same. That's the detail. The noise decreases, but it does not bring complete relief. Bring something else, a strange void, like when a crowd disperses but leaves behind something that continues to hang in the air. You hear more spaced footsteps, lower voices, wooden doors being closed, animals being pulled into the courtyard before night arrives. Archaeological evidence shows that houses in Jerusalem in the Second Temple period were organized in compact stone spaces with internal courtyards, cisterns, and small rooms focused on family routine. And it is to these spaces that the city now retreats, inside, behind the walls, away from the eyes. But silence is not clean. It comes loaded. You see it on the faces of those who still pass by you. Some keep their eyes down. Others look straight ahead with an almost painful rigidity, as if they are trying not to think. There are those who walk too quickly. There are those who walk slowly, as if they still don't know what to do with the weight of what they have seen. But that's not all. The most impressive thing is to see how Jerusalem tries to return to normal before it can even breathe. Someone still lights a fire. Someone is still sharing bread. Someone is still looking for water for the night. Evidence suggests that urban survival depended on everyday gestures that were impossible to postpone. And maybe that's what makes the end of that day so profound. Life needs to go on, even when the soul is still at a standstill. Look once more at the city. The stairs are silent. The alleys get dark. The collective rumor falls apart. And yet, something remained. What most people miss is this: Jerusalem doesn't end this day just tired. She ends up haunted. Because when the unthinkable happens in broad daylight, the night doesn't go away. It just covers it. And now, everything gets personal. Because as you look at this emptying city, you start to notice something that wasn't clear at the beginning of the day. It wasn't just Jerusalem that was divided. It was the people, and that includes you. You walked through crowded streets, felt the tension, saw the faces, heard the whispers, realized the weight of Rome, the fear, the curiosity. And perhaps you did what most did. Observed, without interrupting, without stopping, without positioning yourself completely. And this raises a question that spans time. Because that day is not just about what happened to one man. It's about how an entire city reacted while this was happening. Archaeological evidence shows that Jerusalem was a city of intense faith with daily rituals, strict laws, and a constant awareness of God in everyday life. And yet, that day, that same city continued to operate alongside something that should have stopped everything. And that is uncomfortable because it's too close. But here's what changes everything. The distance of 2,000 years begins to disappear. You are no longer just observing Jerusalem. You are recognizing yourself in it. How many times does something profound, important, even sacred, happen close to you? And life goes on as if it were just another day. How many times do you feel like something is wrong, that something demands a response, but you choose to go with the flow like everyone else? What most people miss is this. The impact of that day was not just historic, it was revealing. He exposed something about human nature that still exists today, the ability to live alongside the extraordinary, without completely stopping to face it. Jerusalem didn't just reject it with shouts, she also participated silently. And that is perhaps even more disturbing, because silence is easy. It does not require courage, it does not create conflict. But he allows irreversible things to happen, and this raises a question. If you were there, not as someone who knows the end of the story, but as someone inside that day, what would you have done? Would he have followed the crowd? Would you have walked away? Would you have watched in silence? Or were you one of the rare people who decided not just to see, but to respond? This question is not in the past. She continues. She finds you now, in the way you react to the things that really matter, in the way you deal with what is right, even when it is difficult, in the way you choose between comfort and truth. Because, in the end, that day in Jerusalem didn't just end with silence. He left an echo. And this echo still asks the same question. What do you do when you're faced with something that should change everything? If this experience made you feel this day differently, if something inside you was moved, so don't let it go like the crowd did. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, honestly, which part of this city did you find yourself in today?